Welcome to Your Case, Your Justice, Personal Injury with Empathy with Lowell Steiger.
Hello and welcome to Your Case, Your Justice, Personal Injury with Empathy with Lowell Steiger. Lowell is a dedicated Southern California attorney who has been fighting for injured clients since 1998. With a genuine passion for advocacy, he works tirelessly to secure justice and compensation for those in need. My name is Kevin Rosenquist, and today's episode is The Road to Recovery, what you need to know about uninsured and underinsured motorist claims in California. Lowell, great to see you again.
Great to see you, Kevin.
This is one of those topics that I've heard from, whether it's personal injury attorneys or insurance reps or anything like that. A lot of people don't have it, really should have it. So let's dive into exactly, what challenges accident victims face when trying to recover damages in an uninsured or underinsured motorist case out there in California.
So uninsured motorist coverage basically is what it sounds like. If somebody does not have if you're in an accident and the person who's at fault, the other person presumably does not have insurance, they're uninsured. So if you have uninsured motorist coverage, your insurance policy sort of steps into the shoes of the at-fault driver, to cover you as though that person was covered. That's one thing. The other one is underinsured motorist coverage. And what that means is, let's just say in California now we have minimum limits of $30,000 for bodily injury. But let's say that you get rear-ended and you need to have surgery on your back or on your neck, and your case has a value, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, if the at-fault driver only has $30,000 in insurance, where do you get the rest? So if you have uninsured motorist coverage with greater limits than the $30,000 that the other person had, you can tap into that, and that would become your uninsured motorist coverage becomes underinsured motorist coverage.
So it's not necessarily, you don't have to get separate coverages. They're kind of one product.
They're the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay, got it. And you had said before that you're a big proponent of having this. Why do you think people? It probably comes down to money, but it can't be that much to your policy. Why do so many people not understand how important this is?
I don't think that it's explained to anybody by their insurance agents. I've actually sent out emails to my clients saying, "Here, let's talk about your insurance," because I just know that people say, "I'm fully covered," but nobody knows what "I'm fully covered" means.
Yeah.
And one of the things that in California, it is not required that you have uninsured motorist coverage. So, but it is required that it's offered to you. And so people just need to know what it is. And it's just a lack of education for it.
Yeah. And I think, everyone's trying to keep their policy down. Right. But, and I totally understand, because like when you have car, at least where I live, when you have a car payment or something like that, you have to have what they would deem full coverage. But what you're saying is, that is not necessarily included in full coverage unless it's something that was required by the state.
Correct. Like for example, I had a case once where my client was a lady who was rear-ended. Somebody's driving down the street looking at their phone, and then the next thing I know, your trunk is their hood ornament. Right. So anyway, this lady was rear-ended and she needed to have a 2-level disc replacement in her neck. And the other the person who was at fault had a $25,000 policy. Of course, they paid it. Their insurance company paid it immediately. She had a $500,000 uninsured motorist policy. And I made the claim, said, you need to pay the $500,000. And because of the type of interest that she had in the surgery and the future problems that she was going to have, and her insurance company paid the full amount. They get a deduction for the $25,000 that the other party paid, though. So they paid $475,000 additional.
That's what it's there for, right?
That's what it's there for. And really, she wasn't. If that had been $1 million policy, she probably would have been able to get that. So, doing what I do for a living, and I see how woefully uninsured or underinsured so many people are. Yeah. It's very frustrating, to see how people cannot get compensated for what they've gone through, and when it could be an easy fix, to have the right coverage.
Yeah. Talk about so what does that look like in that case that you just talked about? If that woman didn't have that policy, that $500,000 policy, is it just, sorry, no, you got no recourse?
Right. Pretty much. Yeah, she had health insurance as well. She was
Sure.
pretty well covered in so many levels, and her health insurance paid for her surgery. But what your health insurance doesn't pay for is your pain and suffering. It doesn't pay for your future pain and suffering, for your inconvenience, for your loss of enjoyment of life. It doesn't pay for any of that. That's where the uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage does come in, because they cover what we call general damages, which is basically loss of enjoyment of life, scarring, any pain and suffering, limitations to your activities of daily living, things like that.
And I would imagine you can sue the other driver, but it's probably not going to do you much good, right?
Yeah, my philosophy is always, and proven out by research and by experience. If somebody doesn't have a lot of insurance coverage, most times it's because they don't have anything to insure. So you're going to sue them, you're going to get an empty piece of paper. It's not going to do you any good.
Yeah. So how does it work as far as, like, if someone is involved in an accident and they realize that they're uninsured, or the other party is uninsured or underinsured, is that something that they have to kind of put in motion with the insurance company, or do they handle that, or do you help handle that? How does the process work?
If I'm representing somebody, of course, we handle everything from the beginning to the end. But if somebody is going to try to represent themselves, which I don't advise, whether you come to me or you come to somebody else, I mean, there are a lot of people that do what I do that are very, good at it. So you have to make a claim. You have certain contractual obligations with your own insurance company that you don't have with the other person's insurance company. So your insurance company may require you to make a police report. They may require you to report the accident within a certain amount of time, 48 hours, something like that. You need to know what your insurance policy requires.
And what are the minimums in California, just so people understand, like, what they could get into if they get into an accident with one of these people?
Yeah, the minimum insurance that's required in California is $30,000. It's called 30/60, 30/60, meaning $30,000 per person, $60,000 total for the accident. So if you have two people involved in an accident, each one could conceivably get up to $30,000 in compensation. If there's more than two people in an accident, that policy would not cover. That policy would mean that the $60,000 might have to be divided up three ways. You're not going to get three people who can get $30,000 each, so it's $60,000 maximum. The other thing is there's now a $15,000 minimum limit for property damage in California.
I mean, it's not that much money, that's something that people need to think about, right?
Blink of an eye.
I'm not saying if someone offered me 30 grand, I'd be like, man, that's not that much. I mean, I'd take it, but when you're thinking of getting into a car accident and the kind of cost of medical bills, you could end up in a real jam.
It can be pretty awful. It really can. $30,000 nowadays. I mean, it was $15,000 up until January 1st of this year. It was 15/30. 30,000 maximum per accident. It was draconian. I mean, there were no accidents anymore where an insurance company wasn't paying $15,000, or very rarely, because I mean, it just adds up, blink, 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 just like that, right? 2 seconds. One of the other things people need to know about uninsured motorist coverage is it doesn't just cover you in your own car. So say, for example, several different scenarios. Say, for example, you're in somebody else's car and you get into a bad accident, and the person whose car you're in, and the other person is uninsured, the at-fault driver.
Right.
So if the car that you're in has minimum limits, uninsured motorist coverage, and they get it, but you have greater than that amount. So say your driver only has 30,000, but you've got 100,000, right? You can invoke your own insurance because this was a vehicular accident. So you don't have to be in your own car. I mean, it gets complicated, but people need to know that their own insurance can kick in a whole bunch of different scenarios. If you're a pedestrian and you get hit by an uninsured motorist driving a car, in a car, same thing. You can use your uninsured motorist coverage in that case.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a really good thing to know too. It probably doesn't add a whole heck of a lot to your monthly premium, I would guess.
It's not a lot, but that's relative. I mean, certain people, people just can't afford it. It depends how much money you make. But I always tell my clients, get as much as you can possibly afford without, infringing on your lifestyle, because you just never know when you're going to need it. I had a case, it was a really weird one, where this client, she was a dentist and she got rear-ended. Was she rear-ended? I think she was rear-ended. Anyway, whatever it created tinnitus, ringing in the ears.
Yeah.
Really bad, where she had that, and it was also called pulsatile tinnitus, where she could hear her heartbeat sometimes. It was awful. Anyway, it really got in the way of her being able to practice dentistry, because with the ringing in her ears and this pulsatile tinnitus, I call it tinnitus, whatever.
I think it's supposed to be tinnitus, but pretty much everybody I know says tinnitus.
Tinnitus, right? I know. So that's what I do too. The person that hit her had no insurance, and I had to fight with her insurance company for, I would say, about 3 or 4 years, because to get her settlement, and they paid her policy limits, which were several $100,000, because it's such an odd injury. But the thing was, and it's a hard injury to prove, but the thing was, in California, we have something called bad faith, first party bad faith. And that means if your insurance company is not reasonable in how they compensate you, or if they kind of mess you around or screw you around for a while and don't pay you timely, which hers didn't, but they had defenses that they were coming up with. So it was a tough fight. But anyway, but it's leverage that you can hold over the insurance company and say, hey, look, this is a legitimate claim. You're not paying it. You should be paying it. We're going to go after you for bad faith. And those words, that little phrase, bad faith, really gets the gears moving. And it's something that I'm not the type of person, I don't like threatening, but I want them to always know that I have that in my back pocket should they not compensate my client fairly.
What happens to the driver in that situation if they're uninsured? I mean, is there really nothing that happens to them other than getting a ticket for not having insurance?
They lose their license, I think, for 6 months, and they can get
pales in comparison to what happens to the person who's getting surgery on their neck.
Right. Exactly. Oh my God. Yeah, and it seems it's always the really bad accidents where somebody is uninsured, where the victim gets injured just in an unconscionable manner.
Because they're bad drivers and no one will insure them, maybe.
No, they have to get insured. But people think, my favorite is when they say, "Oh, I just got insurance that morning," and of course the insurance that they got was like 5 minutes after the accident. That doesn't count.
Oh my gosh.
If someone smashes into you,
worth a shot, I guess.
Yeah, it's worth a shot, but that doesn't work. So it's got to be the insurance at the exact moment of the accident.
Right, at the exact moment you got to hit accept. Yeah. Is there differences in the claims process when you're dealing with an uninsured or underinsured motorist?
Slightly. One of the things is, again, the duty to cooperate with your insurance company. Like if they want a statement from you, usually a statement under oath, you have to provide that. Pretty much, and you have to provide them with the records that they ask for. So, otherwise you're in breach of contract with them if you're not cooperating. So, yeah, that is one of the main differences between that and a third party claim. Third party claim meaning where you're going after the at fault party as opposed to your own insurance. But that's the contractual obligations are a big deal. You really have to cooperate.
Have you had a lot of cases, a lot of situations come your way where your client did not have that coverage and ends up kind of sort of out of luck? Yeah.
Oh my God. I had one once years ago. It was awful. My client was a young guy. He was just finishing up medical school. He was riding his motorcycle and somebody hit him on the motorcycle and they had no insurance. No, they did have insurance. They had a minimum limits. They had at that time $15,000. But he lost a testicle in this accident. It was so bad.
Oh my gosh.
It was a really horrible accident.
Well, I don't know why you got to tell me these stories.
It's one that I always remember, and he was such a nice guy. He had no uninsured motorist coverage. So he had to accept the $15,000 thing. He had to accept their $15,000. That was it. And he was like, well, what can we do? I said, when we did an asset search on the person that, caused the accident, there was nothing. There was nothing to get.
Everything, yeah.
And that was kind of it. Fortunately, it didn't affect his ability to have kids.
Oh, that's good. That's good news.
That part was good, but it was such an excruciating pain. I mean,
I can't imagine.
It would have been like a $500,000 or more, $1 million case if someone had the insurance or if he'd had the uninsured motorist coverage.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy.
It was horrible. Horrible.
Well, I'll tell you this. One thing about that story is every guy listening right now is checking their policy as we speak.
Check it now, quick, before you walk out that door. But no, seriously though, it was pretty bad. But I've had so many uninsured motorist claims, and I like them again because we have that sort of Damocles sword that we can hold over the insurance company. But but sometimes you ask like the challenges and things. One of the things you have to do is if if you can't get a decent result for your client by negotiating, what you do is in California, you demand uninsured or underinsured motorist arbitration. And because you can't go to court under most policies, you end up having to do arbitration, which is private. And I had one case one time where this lady had such really bad back injury, not like paralyzing back injuries, God forbid, but she had just a lot of pain, and it affected her ability to work for a while. And her own insurance company, we collected $15,000 from the at-fault party, and her own insurance company was offering her another, I remember the number, $9,333.33. It was like the weirdest number. And I remember, and so we demanded arbitration. And I remember speaking to the defense attorney, and she kept saying, because they're in-house, right? They work for the insurance company. She goes, I don't know what they're thinking. She goes, they need to pay more money. I mean, it was crazy. But they wouldn't. So I said, okay, well, so we went to arbitration, and it was like a 3-hour arbitration in front of this retired judge. Since his passed away, she was this lovely lady who was like in her late 70s. And we did this arbitration, and she came back with an award of, it was 15 plus the 9,300. So that was like almost 24,000. She came back with an award of $139,000 for my client.
That's much better.
It was much better. I mean, but sometimes you have to do those fights in order to get your client the compensation that they're entitled to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, bottom line, everybody, get the coverage.
Get the coverage. Mm-hmm. Call me. I'll tell you what you need or don't need.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to Your Case, Your Justice, Personal Injury with Empathy with Lowell Steiger. To connect with Lowell, head to steigerlaw.com, and please like and subscribe to our channel and leave us a review if you get a chance. Lowell, always great to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, Kevin. Same.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.